Introduction was not as mouthful as Dr. Nyonis, but it doesn't mean I don't have my abilities. I have enough. Before I look at the roles of the school psychological services, I've been also asked to briefly look at the effects of learning disabilities on children and families. One of the good years, there was a learner. On closing day, he goes home. And then the mother asks him, "Utethu number bani?" And then the boy responds, "Namhla sigijimanga." If you were a parent, how would you have reacted? No, let's leave aside ukuthi we are practitioners, we are what, but just take yourself as a parent. Umntana kuyabuya at the end of the term, and you ask ukuthi uthetha number bani, then he tells you namhla sigijimanga. Uyamthini? You are a parent. I'm waiting for responses. If you were a parent, madam, a beating, why? Why would you beat him?
He definitely knows why I am asking that question, and he knows the answer that I'm expecting. So he's just avoiding the correct answer.
Okay. Let's have another response.
Thank you. Yamtosa ngendlebe ngithi kade isikole bantu ukugijima.
Yamtonsa ngendlebe anjo. Let's have another response. She wants to respond there.
Ngiyafonela uteacher. Ngimbuza ukuthi sowutshona ugijima usuta nami instead of efundi.
Right? One last response. Yes, there she is.
I think the interests of that child are only in sport or running.
And you are a parent. So we have had AMA responses akhona. All of them are negative, aren't they? Why are they negative? What's wrong with the parent? What is wrong with the parent? There's a hand there. What is wrong with the parent?
I think there's nothing wrong with the parents, but I think as parents, we are all attuned to think that education comes first than other things.
As a parent, I have high expectations of my child because I achieved at school. I expect my child to be a doctor, a teacher, and make a better life than myself.
Last response?
With the updated curriculum, something wrong with the parent. The parent should appreciate where the interests of the child are.
Okay. Let's move on. We should be thinking about these things. These are real things. And then it reminds me of a learner, a Form 4 learner who wrote a composition that I had sight of. And I remember this extract, word for word. He says in part of his composition, they were talking about something, the day they'll never forget, something that happened during the holiday. And then he writes his composition, and what attracted me was this extract. We go to Plaza. We go round and round. We do something. We climb a car and go to Kaya for some rounding and rounding. That's a Form 4 composition. And then the teacher marks the composition full of red pens, and then he says, "Are you mad? See me." This was sometime in 2011. Right. We have been told about the definition of learning disabilities or learning difficulties, the signs and symptoms and what. So now we want to look at the effects that the learning disabilities or learning difficulties have on children. I'm going to first look at the affected child, the one with the learning difficulty. So these learners experience a lot of everyday situations, such as shame, frustration, lack of self-confidence, mentioning just a few. So they are hardly motivated because they don't get praise, often because of their low performance, and not internally satisfied for the same reason. Is it true? Right, let's move on. Children with learning disabilities are aware of what goes on around them. And nxa kutshela ukuthi namhla sigijimanga into enhle angakutshela ngayo and lokuyana ku academic vele uyaswela lokuthi aqasele ngaphi. So their ability to understand and communicate may be limited. So nxa umdonsa indlebe yena uyazama ukuthi akutshengisele ukuthi hayi mina in terms of i-report I don't even know ukuthi ngithetha unumber bani, but engikwaziyo ukuthi khona nxa ngigijima normally ngiphambili ngiyabe ngikwazi imbachiye bonke and everything and so they can become frustrated and upset by their own limitations, right? Even as they are at school, if you look at learners who are aggressive towards abanye, normally they are not doing well academically. And abanye baba ngama frustrations of their limitations. Let's move on. These learners suffer school bullying, even from the teachers. There's one school that we visited in, I think it was in Caesar district, one of these years. Sometimes we go there unannounced. Then we park our vehicle there, and then as we approached the classes, one of the lady teachers was beating up a learner. What, all those things. And that's a teacher, and we had to interrupt. Konobo, as the child was being beaten, and other learners were laughing. You can imagine how that learner felt. So let's look at the parent. Why I posed the first question, given the situation of that boy. I wanted us to reflect on the effects of the parents, or effect it has on the parents or the family. So having a family member with an intellectual disability can have an effect on the entire family, especially the married ones. If we look at our statistics of our learners with general special needs, whether it's a disability or what, very few of the parents are still together. And as when we receive these clients, you check on the background, the family history and all that. I'm a single parent. Nomntana uhlala logogo. Ubaba womntwana akaziwa lapha khona. As soon as the child was born and it was realized that the child has a special need, so as soon as the child was born and it was realized that they have a special need, fathers tend to deny. And they leave the burden to the mothers. Lama mothers are in turn go and dump these learners ngapi emakhaya. We know of this, right? So life in the family of a child with learning difficulties is complex and challenging. It involves practical and emotional issues. You know, there are a lot of decisions that have to be taken, and there is a lot of pressure. And this brings disunity among the family. For the brothers and sisters, they may be affected in a number of ways. Suppose they go to the same school, they may also be victims of bullying. And in one of the schools in recent years, you know, when you go for this intervention, you are supporting the schools. You want to understand, possibly you select a grade or a class, and then you want to just go through their records so that you can identify those learners that are lagging behind to see what kind of intervention you can assist with. And then there was this boy, Oengwagotewa. So you try to follow through that learner's performance, the progress. From ECD, he was now in grade 4 and he was not doing well. Then you engage the teacher and ask them, Umntwana lo, kahle kahle, what is the problem? And I was shocked with the response that, vele lokhu ngokwemuli, abantu bakhona bakodewa bonke banjalo vele. From ugogo wakhona lokhulu lani. So it means you are not going to put much effort. And you are not going to put much effort on that learner because since ngwakodewa and abantu bakodewa badala. So why should you be the one ukuthi ubuye lama miracles ayehlula ogogo? They may even be teased at school and labana bavela kodewa. Okulabantu abadala. And for a parent, it can be distressing to find out that their child has a general learning disability. Most of the times we deny that fact. Yokuthi umntwana is a learning difficulty. Often we blame the school or the teacher. So it may really be difficult for them to understand the condition of the child. And they don't take it up upon themselves to even go and visit the school to find out more about their child. Because umntanami ngimazi ngcono, abanye anti sebesithi baloyiwe. It can also be hard to communicate with a learning disabled child to manage their behavior, especially those with attention deficit. It's very difficult to manage. Some of the parents, when they bring their learners for assessments, they'll be beating them in our presence. You know, uzama ukuthi achume. But that child is not used to that. It's all because you don't understand the condition. And we don't blame our parents, auntie. Nxa umuntu engakwazi kumele kube labamncedisayo ukuthi azwisise the condition of their learner. So about marriage, we've talked about it. In most cases, especially obaba, laba bantu banzima laba. To get them to understand the condition yomntwana, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. It reminds me of a couple that came with a child who had severe cerebral palsy. The child had no bowel control and all other things. Then when you are asking toilet training, and how do you train your child for training? The child is still putting on amapamba and you say grade 4, 5, or they are 12, 13 years. Then you are trying to find out. Umama wako na nguyolivila nguyongafundisa umntwana. You know, they start arguing there. And the mother is saying, I'm trying my best, but I'm not getting the support. How do you expect me to be supporting you when I have to wake up in the morning and go look for imali yokuthenga amapampa ankhona? You see? So now the blame is on the mother. But we are not saying we are blaming you for not training the child a toilet. And we simply want to understand. And what have you tried to do? Or how are you trying to manage this learner or this child with a special need? Let's move on. Right. Most frequently, mothers are the first to suspect that a child is a disability. And even umntwana nxa etshisa or ele flu or whatever may be experienced by the child, normally the mothers are the ones who start to suspect. And then maybe at age 3, 4, they seek for assistance. Maybe you go to a pediatrician or you go to a general hospital or wherever. They will tell you, the child is still young. She or he is still developing. Come after 2, 3 years. It's too early to conclude that the child has a learning disability or a learning difficulty. Many have experienced that. But we are saying early identification and the early intervention will be what? Will be more effective. So these are some of the challenges that they come up with. And because you are just a mother, when you go to Dr. Nyoni and he tells you the child is too young, and come back after 2 years, it's so painful. Now, who will be able to listen and assist you when the child is that young. And then how can children and families be assisted to cope? Family members are interdependent, this we know. And it is the parent's response to a child, as well as the child's qualities and traits that contribute to their personality and that of the family. And yet, too often, we have many parents who blame themselves for the conditions presenting in their children. In reality, children are born with temperaments and personalities that contribute to their interactions with each of their parents and their siblings as well. Omunye vele uyahla ukuthi hamntwana lo eleviki ikumbele 1 month umntwana lo ama milestones akhe kade enje anjo. Some of these children are born with with these temperaments. And just as teachers modify the classroom curriculum, you know, we briefly talked about the IEP, the Individualized Educational Program, according to the abilities of a child, right? The parents can also adjust family life to enhance a child's self-image and strengthen the family system. And to begin this process, parents need to educate themselves about the nature and manifestations of their child's difficulties. As parents, you need to educate yourself, research. Smartphones allow it having a WhatsApp kuphela. But research, even if you have a gifted child, that gifted child is a special child. And research and understand your child. Merely knowing that a child has LD is of little help to anyone. And LD is broad. When a umntanakho has an LD, what do you mean? What is it that you have seen? What are the behaviors that the child is exhibiting? So we need to read around, research, consult, so that we understand and we have an appreciation of the different conditions. Here we are not only saying parents with children with learning difficulties alone, but we are saying our children in general. Let's understand our children. So specific information about what the child can do and where problems are likely to occur will foster understanding and acceptance. There are many parents who acknowledge that in their ignorance they were angry and even punitive with their child before identification of the problems. That's why most of you yes, it's because of what? Ignorance. And once you are informed, you are now able to share the burden with the child with LD, understand and accept the feelings of their other children, and educate members of the extended family. And everyone benefits. Normally, we treat our children with special needs differently from other children. Siyabatotoza We want to do things for them. We don't want them to be independent. Mntana lo kakwanisi uyabhajula umuntu osele 12 years. Lokhu egqokiswa iphampa. Kumele ngimthande. Are you loving that child? You are not. It's because you are ignorant. And ignorance ayiyalelwa. But nxa usuzwile njengakhonokho, there is no excuse for not knowing your child. Let's move on. Right, I think on the effects I'm done. Then let me quickly move on to the roles of SPS SNE. Ngengacabanga ukuthi ngiphonga uchaya ama-roles angikhona, then I thought no, maybe a lot of people don't know about this department at all. They don't know that it exists. So this presentation will take you through the department as a whole. Maybe we'll have a better appreciation of the roles. Right. So kudala yayaziwa ngokuthi schools psychological services and special needs education department, but now we call it learner welfare psychological services and special needs education, which is a division within the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, and it caters for every child who needs psychological and psychosocial support services and special needs. And the mission statement of the department, we strive to provide the highest possible quality, cost-effective support services to all educational facilities for the optimal benefit of all learners with special needs in pursuit of national development. Remember, I said special needs children vary. And a creative learner is a learner with a special need. A disabled learner is a learner with special needs as well. So there is our clientele. We have a lot of learners that we deal with, but those are just a few, which I'm not going to go through all of them. And then the functions of the department. 4 main functions as indicated there. I'm sure all of you can see, I'm not going to go through all the points because you also get these presentations on soft copy. I'll just pick on a few. Maybe you can go back to the functions. We have the remedial program, the psychosocial support program, special education program, and then let's try to look at those in detail. We'll look at them as we go to the staff and their responsibilities. That's where you will see how the department operates. So we have special needs facilities. Under the special education facilities, we have the psychosocial support program, which is divided into 3 categories. The instrumental support, the informational support. It has to do mainly with the information dissemination. And then we have the emotional support, which is a kind of support offered in schools with the collaboration of programs such as child-friendly schools and the inclusive education program. Children are also equipped with life skills that will empower them and help them to cope with their situation. Just out of interest, those who are interested in the education and the welfare of the learners, how many suicide cases did you hear of this year? In Bulawayo alone, this year. Suicide. Kumbaswezwang. How many cases of suicide involving learners? How many, madam?
I'd like to say Abe Manenge.
Most of them were seeing them in the present, but there are quite a number of ama-suicide cases. Not only ama-suicide cases, we also, okwakhathesi, we have many cases of rape, many cases of Sodom. You know, in one area there is right now the boy is in Form 4. Somewhere, he sodomized 5 learners. ECDB, grade 1. And one of the learners, wabonakala after as engasela bowel control, they made investigations, sent the child to hospital, transferred for a surgery. It was then discovered that it was as a result of what? Of Sodom. Most of us, when we think of child abuse cases, we always think of rape. And this child is staying with parents. The victim is staying with the parents, but the parents failed to pick. It was picked at school. Through what? The emotional support. Through our guidance and counseling programs in the schools. Right, we have resource units established in order to cater for specific needs. These resource units are in the regular schools. Right? For instance, maybe in a community there are learners with hearing impairment. And how do you teach a hearing impaired learner with the one ozwayo kuhle, and the teacher only has a qualification to teach general classes? They don't have an extra qualification to manage a learner with hearing impairment. So as a result, these units are established, and they come with a specialist teacher who specialized in what? In hearing impairment. And normally their ratio is 1:7. Because one learner is maybe equal to about 10 learners. So most of the teachers in the mainstream don't understand why the specialist teachers have few learners. The responsibility is too much. And then we have special classes. These cater for learners with learning difficulties. Otherwise, we sometimes call them the slow learners. And the ratio is 1:19, but it can go up to 24. So for them to get into a special class, they are assessed. Until we have assessments for remedial. We have assessments for remedial placement, clinical remediation, that one that we do in the afternoons, where we are looking for learners who are weak in either English or maths, or maybe any language, or Ndebele, Shona, whatever. But with special classes, normally that child will be weak in both, or in more than one of the subjects. So they are grouped into that class, and they also have a specialist teacher. There are individualized educational programs for these learners in the special class. So at the end of each year, they are assessed. To those who would have improved, they are went back into in their classes. And if they don't improve, they are retained in the special class. Right, let's move on. We have the National Educational Audiological Lab. This one is only there at our head office in Harare. Those are the specific objectives of the lab. And the services offered to schools by that lab are listed there. The major one being the consultation and support to teachers of children with hearing disabilities, making ear molds for hearing aid fitting of hearing aids when available. And then we have the National Braille Printing Press. This one is also at our head office only. And then we have, I just felt it was important just to share the circulars that guide the function of the department. The circulars that guide, I'm not going to go through all of them, but sonke lapha esebenza khona we are guided by the police, and even if kulokunye uyabona ngani hayi kuyasilela ngabe ngiyenza lokhu, but you are unable to do that because we are guided by the police. Let's move on. So staff composition, we have a psychologist, conduct assessments on learners with challenges and place such learners in the appropriate learning institutions according to the degree of the challenge, and disseminate information, offer career guidance to learners. Let's move on. Let's move on to the next. And then we have the remedial tutors. These ones are based in the district offices with the main duty of supervising the clinical remediation program, and they also conduct staff development in special needs programs such as child abuse, low vision, HIV/AIDS guidance and counseling. Let's move on. We also have speech correctionists. These ones are based at the provincial office. The main duties of the officers: conducting regular survey and communication and language of special needs at all levels of the education system. And they also participate in the development of screening and assessing instruments for use by teachers, parents, and other levels in service delivery. So these ones normally look at clients with speech and language problems as well as hearing impaired learners. Let's move on. So we are saying there are many children who are hidden in our communities with hearing impairments. If proper awareness is being conducted, many children will be assisted. Some people think a child with hearing impairment cannot receive education, just like a child with a visual impairment. They think they cannot get assistance, or they cannot be educated like abanye abantwana. So our department, what I've talked about here, is not only in Mat South, but it is in all 10 provinces. Our remedial tutors are there in all our 72 districts. Psychologists, speech correctionists, and the provincial remedial tutor are based at the provincial office. And you know what this means. Mat South province, for instance, is in Gwanda. In the Mat South, there are 7 districts, a total of 673 schools. And the furthest schools are more than 300 kilometers away from the office. And we are saying these people are supposed to access services from the provincial office. Would that be effective? This is real, and we have our partners here. It's very important for them to hear this and have an appreciation. We are saying ideally we have to deliver services. You'd rather go there to the client than the client coming to you. Right? And in 673 schools, how many would you cover in a term or a year? Considering the resource constraints that all of us know about. The fleet of vehicles, sometimes they're grounded. When you go to camp at a school there, you'll be digging from your pocket, but for how long? Right? So this is a challenge that I'm leaving to everyone here. We want to deliver services for effective learning of all our learners. Some of our learners are identified. They stay over 5 kilometers away from the nearest school. And we need to do something about that. These children who we expect to walk over 10 kilometers to school and 10 kilometers back, they are walking for 20 kilometers a day, and we expect them to learn effectively. And along the way, they are vulnerable to abuse, being attacked by wild animals, and all sorts of things. So as partners who are interested in the education of the child, these are some of the challenges that are there. And it's food for thought. I rest my case.
Colleagues, we can be louder than that. Because I believe we are now better in terms of our awareness of this important department in education, notwithstanding the challenges we all know, the last ones that Mrs. Moyo just mentioned, the issues of distances, especially much north and much south, or those of us who are in civic society have actually wondered how long our communities will continue to suffer. We note the important aspects raised, especially the issue of family disintegration that takes place because we have a child who has some challenges here, and there are challenges that could be addressed. As civic society, WILD and other civic organizations, your fight against patriarchy, which we have seen that it actually collaborates with ignorance, and they uses tradition, culture, to continue to perpetuate this underdevelopment, including that of our learners. We have so many questions, Mrs. Moyo, and I have a very comprehensive achievements and CV, but I knew after your presentation, all the people here will be keen to really consult, and I will be one of them. So it's good that we know what is there and who is available here. We are going to take now a very short health break. Because it's a health break, no smoking.